Hello and welcome to another of my comedians interviews for my blog Arichcomiclife. My name is Richard Gill and my blog describes my experiences of watching over 800 comedians and counting over the last 45 years. I'm delighted to welcome my guest today, Mr. Brendan O'Donoghue. Yes! Yes! Hello, mate. How are you?
I'm fine, Richard. How are you? Nice to see you.
I'm all right, mate. I'm just enjoying my online comedy. It's a shame we can't see your compare like you magically do. It's such a shame, but it will be back. It will be back. Thank you so much for doing this. It's going to be an interview about your comedy career, and it's going to last about an hour. And we're going to go right back to the start. How did you get into comedy? How did you become a comedian? Were you brought up on comedy as a child? What was your first gig that you saw? How did you get into it, and why did you want to do it?
I suppose it's really with me in comedy. I'm from Ireland. I'm from Cork in Ireland. Okay, I mean humor and making people laugh for me is like hugely important. It's very therapeutic for people to laugh. It is. It's great.
Yeah.
But look, I grew up in Ireland, and I've always been, I've always enjoyed people. I've always having the crack, as we say. You know what I mean? You have to have the crack. There's no point in doing things unless you're having the crack. You know what I mean? and it's true. And it's like some people undervalue that in terms of I'm not just talking about on stage, but in life and things. It's, if you're good humoured and things, you seem to get on and do things a lot better. But look. How I got into comedy, I mean, like anybody, I've always been quite creative. I've always enjoyed writing. I used to play in bands. I played drums in the bands and things.
Wow.
And I just find that with how I got into comedy really was when I was a kid. Yeah, I used to enjoy comedy. I wasn't particularly what you say, an out-and-out avid fan of comedy, but I would always like watching the occasional clips in Ireland back in the 70s and things, We had black and white TV. I remember rushing home to see Sesame Street in colour on the big old screen. Do you remember there was two things you could watch in colour. One was cricket for some reason. I don't know why. And the other was Sesame Street. So you'd run home from school, you watch Sesame Street and things. So what I'm saying is that the amount of exposure we had to comedy and things back in the 70s in Ireland was extremely limited, And then through the 80s, comedy became more kind of what we say fashionable. A lot more was being seen, what have you. But people were always saying to me, you're great fun and all that. Would you ever think of doing comedy and things? And I was like, no, I don't know, because we all know you can be funny. In the bar. But when your name's called and you're on the stage and those lights are shining in your eyes, it's different.
Yeah, oh God, tell me about it.
Absolutely. Until you go north of a microphone, it's a different hat. It's a different art form,
Yeah.
And so what happened with me was, I playing in bands and things like that. And then about 12 years ago, I've not been some people look at me and think, oh Christ, you must have been doing comedy since the flood. You must have been doing it since the Marx Brothers.
I wouldn't say that.
And so I came to comedy relatively, late, should we say.
Yeah.
But what really brought me into it is that after I did the band thing, then I got more into writing, and I did some script writing, film script writing.
Right.
And, I was writing scripts and things, which is a real discipline. Script writing is different to writing novels and things because with script writing, it's very, very exact and precise. And it's, but I was writing a piece about a guy who was telling jokes. And I was writing the jokes and I was thinking, actually, something? I think this could kind of be up my street. I like it, So I then went along to the Cavendish Arms, as we know, all the acts that have started there, and
that's where I first saw you.
Yeah, there you go. And a great platform for people because so I went there, and I remember it was in September 2009, And I remember the material I did. And I always remember this. You know, one thing I always say to people, when you're going to do your first gig, always record it. Okay? I never recorded mine. Okay? No matter, you could speak to the top comedians now, the most professional comedians, and you ask any one of them, can you recall your first gig? Bang, just like that. They'll tell you where it was, how it went, and everything. That, you know, ask them gig number 5, and they'll be like, not too sure, but you'll always recall the first one, you know, because I remember, for me personally, I remember doing the gig, and you know, you get called up onto the stage, and the first thing that hit me was the lights. I was thinking, Jesus, I can't see anybody. You know, it was like Close Encounters. And I'm like, I'm going to get sucked up. And then you have the pressure that, you know, out there beyond this blinding light is this sea of heads waiting for you to say something funny, you know?
Yeah.
And I always remember, too, I was just thinking about it this morning, the only person I could see was a woman that she looked like she really wanted to go to the toilet. That's all I can do, okay? Because she was sitting like that kind of... She was the only person I could see, all right? So it became this kind of like, Jesus, I thought, this is really fucking hard. This is not easy. This is not easy because you've got all these kind of things you've mocked up yourself, you know, about, you know, and so anyway, I remember I did the gig and I did the first 2 minutes. I remember I was doing material about, what did I do about the Terminator?
Right.
Well, I was talking about the fact that the Terminator turned up in a car park naked, okay? Right. But he had an Austrian accent. And I was thinking, how the fuck does he have an Austrian accent? He just come from space and he's naked in a car park. He's got an Austrian...
Well, he's Arnie, isn't he?
I was just thinking, if you're trying to pitch that movie to somebody.
Yeah, it'd be very hard to do.
We've got a Terminator, like a blood-curdling murderer who's he starts naked in the car park. We've all probably ended up in a car park naked. Just passenger rights.
Just before we go any further, Brendan, can I ask you just to move your right, just a bit more? Yeah. Keep going. There we are. Yeah. You're in the middle now. That's great. You're at the side before. Sorry, mate. So let's move on from that. Can you describe your first gig? Can you remember your first gig? What year it was? How were you feeling?
Yeah, well, it was like that gig I was doing in the Cavendish. And I mean, of course, what happens in your first gig? It's a blur. You know what I mean? Yeah. The first thing you learn when you go out on stage is the lights, you know? And I said I had that woman sitting in, the only person I could see. But I was great for 2.5 minutes, okay? I was running
fantastic.
What happened to me, Richard? I'll tell you, when I got to 2.5 minutes, it was like, fuck me. Everything. I've never thought of a funny thought in my life. It just kind of drained out of me. And it was like, it's gone. What am I doing? You know, but you had to do 5. Yeah. And I always use the analogy, for me personally, it was a bit like, you know, when you go to the Olympics and you see, say, some guy from a relatively unknown country, and it's still 100 meters, and he comes out of the blocks, and the first 200 meters, you're thinking to yourself, Jesus, this guy is fucking murdering it. They're all miles behind him. That was me. I got to corner number 2 and realised that another 4 to go, you know. But, you know, look, that was my first gig. And
what year was that?
That was in 2009.
2009, right.
Yeah, September 2009. And it was in the Cavendish Arms. Yeah. And, that was the experience. And once I got up and done it, and a few people laughed at points, you know, I thought, you know.
You were away. I started going there something like 2011, 2012, something like that. Yeah. And it was the first point for me when folk invited me along who were comics, and I was like the audience member. They have to take one along with them, don't they? And little did they know how loud my laugh was, I think. That, thank God, is a trademark.
I've always said that when you come to birdies and things, I said, like, the king of laugh. Yeah. You just fill the room. And
you're very kind. It's because I'm enjoying myself so much with all the acts.
Sure.
When you find an act that is amazing, there's nothing but joy for it, and it's just wonderful to watch. And with you comparing and doing your spiel, your jokes, it's an added bonus. It really is. How did you get involved with birdies? How did you get involved comparing it? Were you always compare there?
No. What happened back in about? I'll always remember my first comparing gig was in 2010, I think, the night of the student riots. I remember that because it was a in the afternoon. I went to the. I got invited to this Oxford Cambridge varsity match.
Right.
And I couldn't. That was a real experience. It wasn't a loose bowl in the whole of Twickenham. It was absolutely. It was a streaker, which made the whole event. You know what I mean? In the middle of December, it was freezing. Sure enough, some guy appeared up. But my first gig was that night. Where I remember Sean Brighton left me. There was a little pub. I can't remember the name. Now it was off Leicester Square. Trafalgar Square. Sorry, it was up by the theatre. There was a theatre right alongside it.
Right.
And it was upstairs. That was my first MC gig, and that went well. And then what happened was that after that, I did a number of times. I emceed the Cavendish Arms, which is the gig in Stockwell and I really enjoyed doing that. But then Jimmy Bird, who you know well,
who's going to come on this.
The only man that I know with a comedy night named after him, but I'm not saying anything,
It's
but,
great, isn't it? He was no fool when he christened that comedy night, was he?
He's got a great ring about. But we were doing the blue posts. Did you come along to it? It was
That's when I first caught it. Yeah, that's just off Piccadilly, isn't it?
Yeah. We had that small black Apollo gig upstairs. There was no, and we used to get there. And we did a great little room. That closed down, turned to flats. But what was happening is Jimmy would MC it now and again, but he wasn't that enamored with MCing it, So he asked me would I do it, and I said yeah, and I just kind of fell into it. And then after a while, we went down to Brixton for a while, and the big room down in Brixton. What's the big pub they have down there that does the comedy? I can't tell what the names. I must be getting old.
What's it called?
Big. I always remember the big brown chandelier.
I know exactly where you are. I can't remember the name of it.
But we went there
for a garden outside that you can sit out in the summer. I can't remember the name of it. Anyway, it's in Brixton, the pub.
Yeah, big. We were there for a while, and we were emceeing that. But then, when we moved to what I call our spiritual home, the Savoy Tub, which apparently is a male sheep tub, which is.
It's TUP, isn't it? I always thought it was tap, but it's tub.
It was tub, and they changed it to tap. Exactly. So you had I don't know what kind of customers they were hoping to attract with male sheep, but there's another question.
But it is the perfect room for you there. It really is.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Because what I love about birdies in particular is the whole idea behind birdies is when you go to birdies, right, it's friendly atmosphere.
Yeah.
What we wanted is like you doing comedy, and people are great at home, as I said. We're all brilliant at the curtains, but it's as far as you can't take the curtains to your gig, right? But as I say, when you go to birdies, it's all just about relaxing, friendly, and just get to. What I like about it is this: it's the essence of what comedy should be about.
Exactly, mate. Exactly. Here. Yeah.
Because I can understand when you do the bigger gigs, they're all time constrained and everything, and it's all can be quite regimental. But what I like to think about birdies is that you're a new act and you can develop, or you're an existing act and you can just, enhance your material. I like seeing people develop,
You and me both. My blog is an enthuse. It's a celebration of comedians and my experiences watching them. And I love to go and watch a comedian develop, to start off in a little tiny pub and get and see how far he can go. I mean, I've so many stories in my blog, but one that comes to mind is Harry Hill. I first saw him 30 years ago downstairs at the King's Head, and he was late for the show. So he brushed past me, climbed up onto the stage and said, "Ladies and gentlemen, I'm really sorry I'm late. I had to have a testicle brought down, and there was a laugh and a pause, and then he said from Derby. And to this day, it's the greatest opening line. When I met him, I told him, and he went, "Oh yeah, I still use that." You can remember, but there's so many comedians. I've been very, very lucky to have been able to go, and I love going to see new comics and new materials. These nights in pubs, these free showcases are wonderful. I mean, on my interviews, I've had Josh Balfe, I've had Darren Walsh, and I've had Vix Layton, and Paul Cox as well. Paul Cox is another one. So there's a lot, and that must be very, very encouraging for you to watch them grow and watch them develop.
Absolutely. Look, I mean, my whole thing of it is that, the comedy community and everything. Look, at the end of the day, it's I always say that. Look, people can call it maybe a bit cynical about, but I always say when somebody gets on a stage, it's actually a very noble thing to do.
Yeah.
Because that person dedicated their time to trying to make others laugh.
Yeah.
And they very much care about what they're saying, even if they're the most deadpan, dead in the head kind of act. They still really care about what they're doing, and the intention is to make people laugh. I think that's wonderful. I think that is absolutely wonderful. So
it's the best.
Yeah, I always say people are entitled to respect when they're on the stage. Give them their time, let them do their thing. And yeah, it's great. I love it. I love the idea.
It's brilliant. I can remember one Birdies where it was so full, it was packed out, and that's obviously a great sign. That the only seat I could have was on stage with you. And we turned into like this double act. It was absolutely hilarious because I kept saying, tell the jokes, try that one, do this, and they were loving it. And I could see what it's like from the stage. It was an extraordinary night. And you told me my favourite joke. Can you remember what it is?
Oh yes, yeah. I haven't said it for months. Let me think.
Oh, I can remember it.
When I met my wife, she was a stunner. Yeah, she worked in a slaughterhouse.
There you go. She worked in a slaughterhouse. That is a great joke.
And listen, having you on there on the stage, as I said, look, when I'm emceeing or anything, there's a complete parity. For me, comedy, it's not about the act. It's a group activity.
Yeah.
There's parity between the audience because everybody's involved in the creative process. And if you have an audience that are participating and creating and receiving this and involved, then you have a great night. If you have an audience that are not engaged, not involved, not creating, then it's dead. So having you in the room, because you're, it's a very important hat being an audience member. People forget that. It's very, very important because, when I tell a joke, if I told you a joke now like that slaughterhouse one, right? When I'm doing the joke, I'm the cause. But then when you receive it, you become the cause, and I'm waiting to see what you think about it.
Yeah.
But if you're not engaged or you're not there, then it of course it falls flat. So, and when you have people who go to a comedy night to be an audience, they're very, very valuable. And that's what I think. People sometimes forget that, the importance of the.
Wonderful stuff. You've supported many a comedian at the start of their comic journey.
Yes.
What do you think makes a good comedian, and have you got any tips for new comedians starting out?
Yeah. What I think is, look, if you think yourself, Rich, I mean, God knows, you've seen more comedians than anybody I know, okay? But even within those comedians, right, there will be some that communicate to you, all right, or that strike you, bang.
Yeah.
I think when you're starting comedy, what you got to remember, first of all, is that, look, and I always say to new acts when they're going on, have fun. When you're out there, have fun. Because, look, if you look at the whole thing of what you're doing, it is a bit ridiculous, isn't it? The whole thing of just, but, when you see a good comedian, I think what they get is, first of all, they have a point of view. As an individual, they find their being, if you like, and what they're being on stage, and they know, right, this is me, this is my point of view, and these are the things that I've observed, okay? And I'm going to put them across with my shtick. And I think what anybody starting is to, first of all, remember when you go on a stage, is that for the first 100 whatever gigs is, you're going to be just finding your way around the stage. You got lights in your face, you got people looking with expectation. Okay, you got to get over all that and get to a point where you're confident of you know what you've got to say is funny and will land if you deliver it with the right stick. So you need to record your thing, and then what you need to listen to is that when you're doing the gig, the gag is fair enough, but what's the attitude? What are you emanating as an individual being, if you like, on stage when you deliver that gag? And that's what makes it laugh. That's you, bang. You know, that's the most important. That's why you have all your different comedians. You know,
that's brilliant.
And that's the most important thing.
Because I mean, I first started watching comedy in the 70s. The first comedians we ever saw were Tommy Cooper and Les Dawson, and they found their originality. It took them, infamously, it took them a long time, but when they found it, they were flying. There's an infamous story about Les Dawson where he's trying to do his best and make his way in it, and he's failing badly, and he doesn't know what he's doing, and his act finishes, and he goes down to the bar for a drink, and a bloke taps him on the shoulder, and he says, do you mind if I give you a bit of constructive criticism? He says, no, not at all. He says, I think you're crap. So he had to get better and better and better. but it is all about finding your way, your place in the comedy world, if you like, and try and be as original and above all funny as you can. It's absolutely fascinating.
It is, because what I say is this, is like that each person that gets on stage is an individual. They have their own point of view, their own life experiences and everything. And they bring their own colour. So you could have two people on stage talking about the same subject. But one guy's managed to look at it from a different angle. He's looked at the things that are out, because in comedy, that's what we're looking for.
Yeah.
I mean, I used to do the joke about Ned Kelly. I used to say, oh, you know, Ned Kelly is a great highwayman, wasn't he? A folklore guy. I said, yeah, from Australia. What did he do as a disguise? He wore a steel bucket on his head. Okay, but he was the only guy in Australia with a steel bucket on his head. So wasn't
no disguise.
Exactly. What you're looking at, you're looking for what's the whole point, and then I find is, don't make that obvious. That's the subtext, and then when the audience find it and they see that whole point, they laugh. That's what they're laughing at.
Wonderful. So, what do you think makes a good compere as opposed to a good comedian?
I think it's very important for a compere to he's the link man, okay, but what it's very important, he's got to make it safe for the audience to laugh and enjoy themselves and make them feel comfortable, and the acts. That's what he's got to do. It's not about him. It's not about that. I think the best, and he's got to genuinely have goodwill. You know, I always cringe when I go to a night and I see a compere there who's just picking on somebody in the audience. That to me, all right, that's making that person uncomfortable. He's paid the guy next door. Why would you do that? No, do you know who I think has this down to a fine art? James Gill. I think James has this down to a fine art. Yeah. He is so respectful of the audience, but has great fun, great energy, and people because of that. I think
when I first went to Always Be Comedy, I sat midway back, thinking that my laugh would be enough. I was not very confident of myself, and my friend said, move to the front row, and my world changed. He's extraordinary at getting an audience together and getting the best out of them, ready for the acts to come on. But then I think you're the same as well. Whenever I see you on stage, you're determined to make the audience laugh before an act comes on. And that's just wonderful to see.
my point of view in it is very straightforward. We're all here, we're all the same. It's just that I'm up on the stage and I'm posting up ideas, but I need your laughter and contribution as much as me standing there saying it. If you're not there engaged, there's no point in me being there. No. So absolute parity. It's a group event.
Yeah.
Okay? We're all here for one person to have the crack, all right, to look at them. And I was just summating it. To my mind, you know, I think that, you know, that's the thing. And when people come to comedy, my view is like, fuck me, you've travelled here. You might as well have the crack. You might as well engage. You know what I mean? You paid the money and you got a point that probably cost you a few quid.
That's the thing. Yeah, that's exactly it. When I go to a comedy night, I'm not here to hear the audience. I'm here to hear the acts and enjoy myself.
Yeah, exactly. But I think what it is it's very interesting, because you see, if you get a lot of acts in an audience, the problem you get is that they're like the cameraman at a football match. He might be a Man United fan, but because he's working, he's not engaged in the match.
Yeah.
Whereas if you've got somebody who's there as an audience, they're there to participate and contribute. And they're contributing, listening, clapping, and that's where that energy comes from. You know?
Brilliant. It's so good. Do you prefer comparing to delivering a routine?
Do you know, I looked at that question. I thought to myself, well, I've had great nights comparing. I love comparing, because I love the warmth, but I love I'm whatever age I am, all right? And, I know a lot
40.
of people but what I love about the fact is that, from comparing, yes, you're responsible for the night, and my primary task is make it safe for the audience and creative and fun.
Yeah.
Make it safe. And I'll tell you something now, and I'll say this to you, right? The pinnacle for comedy, right, is when you have any act, right, who can get an audience into a point of where they are creating, and he allows them the space to do that. Now, you'll see that. Now, I had an experience like this once when I was doing the Dog Star in Brixton.
Yeah.
And I went in, and what I'm saying is that Tommy Cooper used to do this. What he would do is, he would leave so much space that the audience start creating. And when they start creating, they're laughing. God knows what they're laughing at. But it's hysterical, because there's all kinds of bang, bang, bang stuff going on. So what the MC is, to my view, is this. And I thought to myself, before I go on with Rich, what would I think a good MC? A good MC to me is this. When he's on, you enjoy him because he's fun and he's warm and he's bringing the energy up. But when he's gone, you're not missing him.
Exactly, yeah. That's a really good analogy.
And the acts want to come on.
Yeah.
When you've got them laughing, my view is, if I go out and an act hasn't done that well, my job is get them laughing, bang, when they're in the room, bring the act on.
Yeah.
Once he goes down the slipway, that's his business. What he does then.
Yeah. And it's so true what you say about Tommy Cooper holding the pause, because when we saw him, the curtains opened and he's lying on a bed and nothing else is happening. He's just lying on this bed, and one woman in the audience, packed audience, starts laughing, and it trickles round, so everybody's laughing. And just at the perfect time, he popped his head up. He went, "What? Has somebody come on?" It was genius.
That to me, that to me is you've spoken word in common.
Yeah.
That to me is almost like telepathic.
Yeah.
That's another level again.
Yeah. That is fascinating. That is fascinating. How do you cope, God forbid, if you get any difficult audiences? Because I've never seen you with a difficult audience. You're a very warm, engaging comic, and I think this would be very rare. But have you had any instances with them? How do you cope with them?
Yes, yeah. I'll put it this way to you, right? The first thing to remember is, if you're comparing, you've got somebody who's been difficult.
Right.
The rest of the audience don't like him, because he might think he's funny, but all he's doing is interrupting the night.
Yeah.
I'm very, very to the point with them. Like, there was a guy in Birdies one night, he was commenting all the time. So I turned around, and he was a big blonde guy. And I said, "Oi, Thor." I called him Thor. Like blonde hair and everything. He probably spend hours doing his PhD and all the rest of it. So I said, Thor. I said, "I tell you what, okay, if you want to keep commenting, I tell you what you do is you fuck off, right, 5 minutes, and come back up here and get North at the microphone, right? I mean, otherwise, shut the fuck up." And that's the end of it,
I bet he did.
It's like, and one thing too that I say is that, but there is a tendency with people who start in comedy, right? They have this pictures, all right? Yeah. I'm going to handle the picture. And I always remember in comedies one night, in Birdies one night, there was a girl there, and she had a bit too much to drink, okay? And she was mouthing off a bit. But she quietened down after a while, and she was fine. I said, "All right, she's back there now. She's nice and calm. Leave her alone." course, the next new act goes straight on. What's he do? Straight to her. And I'm thinking, no, leave her.
No.
But look, there's always a point in time where you can say to the person, look, we don't, it only becomes an issue if you let it be an issue, if you know what I mean. But you can always appeal to people's senses and think about what's going on. But yeah, other than that, I remember years ago, the other alternative is that I was doing a gig with up in St. Albans, and I came out, and what happened was I had the microphone, and I put the microphone on, and next thing the lead fell out on the ground, and I went, oh, fucking hell. And I put the lead in, right? And next thing this guy goes, potato, like that, right? So I picked up the microphone, and I just went, right, who the fuck said potato? And five of these guys in the front went, he did. And all I did was rip into this guy for a few minutes, and he came up after me, afterwards, and they loved it. They loved it. Yeah. Such a legend.
So what you've done is turn around the atmosphere to make it good, and that's what a compare does.
Use it and spin it back on them.
Yeah.
If you can do that dissipates the thing,
Yeah. What I love about you as a compare as well is that you will tell a joke, and if you don't think it's funny, you'll tell another and another and another and another until people are laughing. Do you have a way of remembering them all, or do they just come to mind and you tell them?
Generally, if I'm doing a set, it'll be themed, like my family, my wife, blah, blah. I can remember that. And of course, you practice the jokes, walk around saying, and all the rest of it. Yes, what I do is, my general philosophy is this, is that like people learn about doing great jokes and delivery, but it's like boxing. You got to look, where's your real weakness? Your real weakness is if the joke doesn't work. Never mind the time you're fucking surfing the wave, man. It's when you... What's your comeback?
Yeah.
Well, I'll do something like this. What I'll do is I go tell a joke like, nuclear arms, not much point unless you do the legs as well.
I haven't heard that.
No, if they didn't get that great a reaction, and I've got a small one, I'd say something like, now we're up and running.
Yeah.
And you break that tension, you break that whatever you want to, and people engage. They go, look, this guy's like, you know what I mean? So that's what I found. But if you look at top pros, that's what a top pro will do. They'll persevere.
Yeah.
And they'll control the audience. Bang, bang, bang. You know Anthony Newton? You know Anthony very well, don't you? Know that Anthony does the keyboards and the music?
Oh, yeah.
Anthony told me a thing years ago, which has always stuck in my head. He said, a really good comedian is a nose ahead of the audience.
Yeah, that's very true.
Because he's just controlling them. Look at this, bang. Look at that, bang.
They're controlling the room, aren't they? They feel as though, right, I'm here, I'm going to... You're going to listen to what I'm going to say and laugh.
Yeah, here, direct your attention at that. Good, bang, thank you, bang, thank you. And you watch the really good ones, they have that down to a T.
Yeah. To date, what has been your comedy highlight?
For me, I was just thinking about that. I've done loads and loads of great gigs, had loads and loads of fun, right? But for me personally, it's not really, it wasn't a comedy gig. Well, my father died in 2019. Okay, I had to, no, that's fine. I had to do his speech at the funeral, right?
Right.
And because he had such a great sense of humor. For me, the pinnacle of my comedy was to go into the church and actually tell stories about him and what have you in the tone of voice he had. He was quite irreverent. He used to go to mass and everything, but he was quite irreverent, and he was a great character, full of life, bang, bang, bang. I'll tell you quickly one story, right? I used to work when I started off as a quantity surveyor, which is what I started in a small office, and I used to work with a guy called Ian. Now, my old man, he used to occasionally go on these DIY excursions. God knows why, right? He's terrible at it. But we went down to this DIY centre, and I was sitting outside in the sun, and next thing, Ian comes out with his wife, and he goes over to me. He says, I've just had the strangest experience of my life. I said, well, what's that? He said, I was standing in the queue holding a pair of louver door for my cupboard. For a cupboard, louver doors,
Yeah.
With the doors. He said, as I was standing there, this guy came up, he opened the door, stepped through it, closed it, and kept walking. So he stayed in the The guys walked through and kept going. I said, "That must be right down the thing." And he turned around. He said, "That's the guy over there." I said, "Oh no, that's my old man."
Oh, brilliant!
He said, "Yeah." He said the door just appeared, so he just opened, walked through it. But look, that was a highlight. I mean, that was. But in terms of comedy, it was probably doing Hayton Live in the Edinburgh Festival.
Yeah.
Because that was gladiatorial, and I wasn't doing gags. I had to go out and do this thing out of the bucket, and I won the heat. And for me, I do gags, but that to me tested my ability to do like observational stuff on the spot.
Yeah.
And so for that was fantastic to do that.
It's similar story when my dad passed on. He used to love the fact I would go and see all the comedians, and one of his favourites was Barry Cryer. And
yes,
and that man just he's a gag machine, and he's written for everybody. And I met him at the Edinburgh Festival one year, just after my dad had died, and I said, I'd just like to say to you, thank you very much for all the jokes, because one of my dad's favourite jokes was this, and I told him the joke, and he shook my hand, and he said, "Oh mate," he said, "I'm really sorry of your dad's passing." I said, "Thank you very much." He said, "But I'm so pleased my jokes travel." I'm like, thanks.
Absolutely lovely.
And that's the magic of it, if you've got the ability to do it, because it's just the most wonderful thing. Let's move on very quickly to Edinburgh. I mean, I go to the Edinburgh Fringe every year. And it's my holiday. I go there and I see about 50 shows. I need holiday by the time I come back, but I go there for a week, and I absolutely love it. Have you been regularly? You say you were in Hayton Live. Do you go when you can? Because I've never seen you there, and I'd like to catch you.
Exactly, Rich. With me, all right. I've gone to Edinburgh once. Oh, shame on you.
Brilliant.
Bloody part-timer.
No, we'll make a point again and going again.
I will definitely go again. It was wonderful. I mean, it was wonderful. I went around.
Amazing,
I saw some shows as well, and I went as an audience member. And as well. And I did little shows, and I did the Hayton Live thing, and that was fantastic fun and what have you. I think particularly if somebody's starting out in comedy and they want to make a career for themselves, they've got to they have a platform there to show their voice and what have you, and show what they're the cut of their. For me, because of the pressures of work and everything, the option of me taking a week or not taking a week, but taking a month off, just wasn't there. And I think, to be honest with you, for me to like go for a week or something, I need to develop a show. I might do a show sometime for half an hour, but do you know what I said to people? I said 20 minutes. 20 minutes, in my view, of comedy, right? I used to do a thing down the Cavendish Arms, right? I used to go on and do a minute, right? Bang, bang, jokes, bang, 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 bang. And then I'd leave after a minute. Now everybody in the audience is thinking, fuck, that guy's brilliant. And there's an old adage in the show business, leave them laughing, mate. If you've done a minute, really good. Don't go into minute 2. Get off.
Wow. I bet it was an amazing minute.
It's good fun. It's good fun. But I think for me personally, half an hour for me, and that'll be enough. I think the audience is enough. And because you know what I noticed is some people do an hour, right? They're fine. You can see their club comics. They're okay for 45 minutes, but they come into the last 15 minutes, and you can notice there's a dip.
Yeah.
Because they're not used to doing it. It's all about rhythm, to my mind.
Well, I always make a point in Edinburgh of seeing Darren Walsh, because I love the visual puns, and he goes for about 45 minutes.
Brilliant.
In 2019, I saw Josh Balfe, his solo show Boy, which was about 35 minutes.
Yeah.
And if the Fringe had happened in 2020, Vix Layton was going to go up with the first show, and I was all ready to go and support her. Yeah. So, it's great that they've developed, as we've been talking about, and they're all ready to go again. I saw Paul Cox at the Brighton Fringe do his hour-long show, and he was just effortless, So Yeah, I think I mean you would be amazing there. I would get everybody because I go there with a lot of my friends, and they would absolutely love you. That believe me, they would. So when you announce that you're going to do it, do let me know.
I will, of course.
Definitely. We're all living in strange times. It's very very weird, all this lockdown and all the rest of it.
Yeah.
Have you done any online gigs? How have you found them as opposed to live gigs? Some comedians don't do them at all. Some have done a lot.
Yeah.
What's with you?
I've only done very little, to be honest. I did some stuff for the Cavendish Arms, and I was doing like minute sessions and gags and things.
Yeah.
The thing that's missing for me on internet gigs, and listen, don't get me wrong. Look, if other people have different views, if they go online and they work for them, fantastic, you know. And maybe they'd work for me as well. I just haven't put myself out there looking for gigs, to be honest. But what I find it odd is that, you know, you're doing the gig and you don't have that instantaneous bang, you know, that energy that creates
to a screen.
Exactly. And sometimes your face is on the screen, so you're like you're doing it into the mirror, and you're going like, "Oh, fucking hell, get off this!" And you know what I mean? It's like, you know. So what I'm saying is this: is that, look, I can understand from a professional comedian's point of view, you know, if they're going online. And what I don't know, you see, I'm looking from a comics perspective.
Yeah.
I'd be interested to see from an audience perspective, what do you think of them? Because you sat through a lot of them.
Well,
do you think
when the first ones I went to had absolutely no audio, so I was sitting there laughing out loud, looking at four white walls in this room, expecting to be taken away. There was neighbours banging on the windows. You know what's going on. But when they opened up the audio, it works. And for me, I always say to folk, you need something more than routine, and for me it's stand-up comedy, obviously, with the blog and going to the shows and everything. So for me it's an absolute godsend, but having said that, you can't beat live. You never know what's going to happen in a live atmosphere. I miss going out, having a beer on a Saturday night and then a comedy show and chatting to them all. But you know, you've got really good comedy shows, in particular Always Be Comedy Online, as we said before, but also Happy Mondays Comedy with Sean James and Return of the Crack? I say that word wrong. It's because I'm not Irish. It's crack. Return of the Crack with Jarlath Regan on a Friday night is also fantastic. So, you know, they are there, and thank God they're there, because they do very good shows, and and they get very good comedians. But I'm missing the live scene. I really am. You know. Sure,
you know, it's interesting because, I mean, what I'd be interesting to ask you a question, Rich, because you know, when you go to a comedy show, and you come over at the end of the night, what do you feel internally that you have gained from that, or what does it do for you? What ignites your interest?
My only answer to that is I went to, in order to write the blog, I went to the Amused Moose half-day writing course. I went with a load of other people who wanted to be reviewers, and she came to me and she said to me, why are you here? And I said, well, I believe I'm not a reviewer, I'm not a diarist, I'm not a reporter. What I am is a member of the audience out for a good time, and therefore my blog is an enthuse, it's a celebration, as I said earlier. And that's what it is. Whenever I go, I am determined to enjoy myself, and I am extremely polite if I'm not laughing out loud at comedians. I sit there, I listen, I try and analyze why they're not, why I don't, because comedy is very, very subjective, of course. So another thing is that I'm very good at if you wanted to go and see a comedy night, a bit on a bill of comedians, I could pick those comedians for you, and I'm sure you would have a great time. But so, and that's just purely through seeing all of them over the last years. but I just have the time of my life, and it's made me a better person. It's made me more confident. It's made me more enthusiastic for life. You know, it is just a tonic for me, and I can't get enough of it.
But, you know, that's fantastic. You know, listening to you, that's you know, when we started, I was talking about the therapeutic of value of laughter.
Yeah,
and that's what it is. And I always say to them, "How would you say?" I think any piece of work, if it gives people any art piece, if it gives people hope at the end.
Yeah.
And
you can divide the comedians obviously into different areas. You've got jokers, pun tellers, storytellers, nutcases who are just mad. But you've also got the next degree. Your people like Morecambe and Wise, Les Dawson, Tommy Cooper, even Peter Kay, who he just twiddles his glasses or his fez and he's funny, and you think, my God, how can you do that? You know, because I look at them all as they walk out, and they've got 1 minute to get an audience to make them laugh, and that's magical. That to me is heroic, because they're doing is good. It's just such a positive vibe.
Absolutely, and I think that's the wonderful thing about it at the end of the day. And I think that, you know, what the world has been through, I think the role of comedians and laughter and things can't be underestimated or undervalued. It's very important. You know?
Exactly, mate. Exactly. Who are your favourite comedians, past and present?
Okay, I mean, I was thinking about this. Right, past, I'd have to harp back. One of my favourite comedians all the time was W.C. Fields.
Oh, mate, what a legend!
Absolutely love his timing. I love his attitude. I just love him. I love the guy, right? And you know, the Marx Brothers, obviously, you know, like going back and then moving up into, you know, you gotta like Richard Pryor.
Oh yeah.
The one that really gets me about Richard Pryor, I love that one when he talks about the two guys hunting the bears.
Yeah.
And he goes to the guy, "Where's the gun?" The guy's going, "What gun?" And I love Richard Pryor and in his movies as well with Gene Wilder.
Yeah.
Obviously, the likes of Billy Connolly, brilliant narrative, fantastic creative narrative.
He can just take a word and he's away. You know, he's extraordinary.
Head, you know, really creative. Dave Allen. I think Dave Allen was a brilliant, dry wit, observant comedian. And I always say to people, if you want to do narrative style observant, have a look at some Dave Allen videos. You know, just brilliant. His timing was brilliant. I love Eddie. I love, one of my favourite things is the Dick Bar Canteen. Brilliant. I love that. I love the
one of the sections in my blog is called "The Ones That Got Away," and I've listed 25 comedians who I would have loved to have seen, but have either passed on or haven't been able to see. And up there is Dave Allen. I would have loved to have seen him live. He would have been. Oh, he was just one of the best, one of the greatest.
Absolutely. But more modern would be the likes of Mitch Hedberg. I think was brilliant, very kind of surreal comedy. And then the modern guys like Bill Burr, Dave Chappelle, and all that. I put it this way to you, my view, and you know I really like his writing and stuff is Dane Baptiste. I think Dane's a great writer. Very, very linear. I always said to him, he's got great linear style of writing. It goes straight through.
Yeah.
You know, so there's so many people that I enjoy watching. I can even see somebody for 5 minutes. Oh, man, that's really good.
Yeah.
You know, they're really good. You know,
and that's the magic, as I said earlier, of watching them develop. You know, you've found this new talent, and I mean, I can remember I first saw Peter Kay in a room of 5 comedians. And he was 4th on the bill, and I laughed so hard I missed the 5th act. I was still laughing, and I said to my mate, I said, he's going to be a superstar.
Amazing, you know. I mean, I went to John Kearns, you know.
Yeah.
I went to John Kearns' preview. There was only a few of us in the room, but I was laughing so much at John. John was at the front, and he turned around to me one point and he said, "You have to stop laughing." He says. I think you're absolutely brilliant, and I just
said, great. Laughter is a wonderful thing. There's a very famous story for me where we were on holiday in Torquay when I was 10, And my mum and dad took me to see Tom O'Connor at
Oh,
Paynton.
really?
And I used to love Tom O'Connor. I love all that Tarby and Bruce Forsyth and all the rest of it. And I laughed so hard at one of Tom O'Connor's jokes that A, I discovered my laugh, and B, it floored him because he didn't know what to do next. He was sort of like taken aback that I was laughing so hard. So I'll be eternally grateful to him.
Absolutely fabulous.
It's brilliant, yeah. Like me, do you go to a lot of comedy gigs as a member of the audience? When I first saw you, you were. I always remember I was with my mate John Bolton, who became a comedian, and he went through birdies and everything, and we came up and said hello. You were having your dinner, but you had a little notebook, sort of like keeping an eye on the acts and stuff. I found that fascinating.
Yeah, I mean, I think what I was doing sometime, I think what I was doing, we were probably putting together the night at Birdies.
Yeah.
And what we were probably looking at is looking at which acts I think would be good to have on the bill, because what you want to do is when you've got a new act night, you need to be careful that you need to balance with, you'll have brand new fledglings out of the nest, but you need guys who know the cut of their jib already. They've got 5 minutes. I always say to a new act, get your 5 minutes down and then springboard from there. Don't keep writing and writing and writing and writing. If you get a joke that works in your first 50 gigs, put it in your back pocket and fucking use it, you know.
Yeah.
And we'll have you. But so yeah, and what I will do is I haven't been going to that many, obviously, for the last year. We've had no gigs, but if I go to a gig and I'm not performing or not emceeing, I'm totally like you. I'm there as an audience person. I'm not critically analysing the act or looking at him. I'm there. I'd say, okay, I'm here. But that night with John Kearns, right? I'm serious. I thought I was going to get thrown out for laughing too much. And so, and I'm a great believer. I'll always watch acts and I'll support acts.
Yes.
And if I'm not emceeing or if I'm not on stage, I'm an audience member. But what I will do is, and I do enjoy watching, if I'm ever on bills where there's a professional, one of the best sets I've seen in recent times, and one of my favourite comedians is Kerry Marks.
Oh, he's brilliant.
I saw him doing a set down in where Reigate. I was doing this gig with Ed Jewson, and I did the first 10, and Kerry was the headliner. And I'm not cutting it. There was a woman in there. They had to take her out because she was in the pool. And you know what was brilliant? The whole place. I was saying to myself, this guy is as good as anybody. Incredible act. Yeah. Incredible. Yeah. I was talking to another really low-key guy, but Jesus, we were all just falling laughing, you know? Brilliant.
And that is, summing up, that is the magic of it. You know, if you come across somebody who has made you laugh so much, where's the wrong in that? You know, it's all positive.
Absolutely, and he was brilliant.
Yeah. And
I love watching acts. I love watching acts that are more experienced to me, top pros and things. I love watching guys who are starting out.
Yeah.
I watch the whole gamut, because I think you can always learn as an act. That's why it's good at Birdies. We have a mix of more experienced and new acts, because they can see what the other guys are doing, and that's how you learn.
What I love about Birdies is exactly that, because Jimmy Bird is a established comic, so especially when he wants to get up and do 10 minutes, then that's just brilliant, because he's helping out all the wannabes as well who get up and do the 5 minutes. It's a no-brainer. It's just a win-win. It's wonderful what you all do at Birdies. I can't thank you enough for the nights that I've had, that I've enjoyed so much, and all my friends have said that was fantastic. That was such a good idea. I know they're all over London, all the free comedy nights, but that's why I keep coming back to it. It's such a great night.
Well, I'm so glad to hear that from you, who is, in my view, one of the most knowledgeable people in comedy, because you've such a passion and love it. So it's great to hear that. And, you know, I just want to put the message out there that as soon as it is safe to do so and things are back, and what have you, Birdies will be back. I'll be there.
Well, I, for one, will be there, my friend. Definitely. Thank you very much for those words as well. Just before we go, is there anything else you would like to say? Have you got any online gigs coming up? Where can people find you on social media? Are you doing any writing?
I'm like a ghost, right? You know, I don't do
a comedy ghost.
Because people have come up to me and they've seen me do some gags and say, "Oh, can we follow you on Twitter?" and all the rest of it. I tried doing Twitter, and I used to do all the drawings. Remember with the jokes?
Yeah. I loved that. I absolutely loved it, and I encouraged you to keep doing it.
I know, and do you know, I have a funny thing with me, Rich, is that I hadn't drawn for years and years and years, right? But then during this pandemic, it kind of got boring, and I thought, well, let's put a few of the jokes together with drawings. And some of the drawings are they're not proper, right? You know, I'm not a proper artist and all the rest of it, but that's part of the comedy of it.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
But so what I'm going to be doing in the future is, obviously when things open up, we get back and doing birdies and things. And for me personally, I've got to really try to look more at like the internet and getting stuff out there and gags and stuff, because I've got like God knows how many gags. I'm not organised like Darren. I saw the interview with Darren where he's got like his Excel spreadsheet or whatever.
Yeah. Well, that's what I've got for the comedians. Yeah.
I've got books in plastic bags. I've got like fucking I don't know how many. You know.
Well, if you've got loads of jokes, there's a book.
Yeah, you know, indeed. But it's like I I'm terrible at admin. I'm a typical. I'm really admin shit at admin.
There's an admission.
You know, it's like I've got jokes everywhere, scenes.
Yeah.
More get into writing sketch scenes and stuff like that, and what have you.
Well, I for one will buy that book. I'm telling you now. I think you're a very, very funny man. I also think you're, like me, a very supportive person in comedy. The amount of acts that look up to you and respect you is extraordinary. Certainly starting out. And all I can say is thank you so much for your time today. I've thoroughly enjoyed talking to you. I could talk to you all day, Brendan.
Absolutely. Well, you know me and talking, Rich.
All the very best to you, and thank you so much.
And thank you for having me on. It was a great honour. And as I say, you're a great friend. But we'd be delighted to see you back at Birdies again.
Thank you so much.